The Rector Community Museum, located in the former Underwood Furniture Building, sits on Main Street in a town in Clay County, Arkansas of approximately 2,000 people. The building is one of the older ones in town, dating to the early 20th century. And inside, what used to be a furniture emporium and funeral home next door is now the place where the community tells its story, where local history comes alive through displays connected to sports, school, community life, civic life, church life, and through tributes to the military who have served here in Rector. The museum also hosts the Ford Room, a music venue that is used partly as a community gathering place and partly a fundraiser. And so in just a moment, we'll go through and visit with Museum Director and President, Mr. Joey Pruett. Joey, I appreciate your time very much. It's a treat to get to talk about public history and local history, especially a community like Rector that's so important to us both. So thank you for doing this.
Glad to do it.
If you would, can you talk a little bit about the building that we're in, a little bit of its original purpose, and then the process of it becoming the museum?
Yeah, that side of all these buildings in town used to be two businesses in each building.
Okay.
And that side of it was Calvin Furniture.
Okay.
This side was Irby Funeral Home before they moved across the street.
Oh, okay.
And that side of the building burned, and the next day they came in, the wall had fallen.
Oh, wow.
And so Mr. Calvin bought the Irby Funeral Home side.
Okay.
And just tore the wall out and made it one big business.
I got you.
And then my understanding is that Irby's actually moved down the street, a couple of buildings.
Wow.
While they were building this over here.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And yeah. So, and then it became Mr. Calvin's son-in-law that purchased it, Byron Underwood.
Underwood, okay.
It was Underwood Furniture, and then his son took it over.
Oh, wow.
And then they closed it up, and I have some pictures. Unbelievable what shape the building was in.
Wow.
And we had a couple of guys. Marvin Gatewood spent hours upon hours. We stopped counting at 5,000 volunteer hours.
Wow.
We found out that we couldn't use them for grants. You know.
Okay.
We don't use hours in advance.
Okay.
And so after the grant is issued, and so we stopped counting at about 5,000 hours.
Wow.
There's no telling how many hours he has in here.
Wow.
And then Dan Thompson moved here, and he got involved, and he now does that. And but when we came in this building, there were 14 kiddie swimming pools.
Oh.
Sitting around collecting the water.
To catch the water.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And the building on the other side housed a doctor's office and a dentist's office, and we also own that. And
okay.
You can see that we actually had the dental tools that were used in that office.
Oh, wow.
And the building next here on the north side was the first Kroger in Arkansas.
So Joey, as we're looking at the different sections in the museum, I know some of them are permanent, and they're, the sports section. You guys have done a really nice job telling the story of the local sports teams, not just Rector, but the schools that consolidated. But I don't remember this display being here. So would you talk a little bit about the way you do the sections in the museum, the permanent displays, and then do you rotate some in and out? And I want to back out of the frame so you can tell this story especially.
Okay.
All right,
okay.
If you would.
All right. Well, this we're really proud of. Down the street is a beauty shop, and that was this building right here, and Jim Miles had it built.
Okay.
And he graduated from school or whatever. Well, he trained in Little Rock, and they taught him to come back down there and take over the business, and he became Bill Clinton's hairstylist.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and then as Clinton moved up the ladder, he stayed with him.
Sure.
And even when he was president.
Wow.
And he called me one night and said, "I have something that my kids and grandkids don't care much about.
Right.
But would you like to have it for the museum?" And I said, "You bet."
Wow.
And
yeah.
So this is the chair that he would cut his hair in then. And then when he became president and was traveling, he used this chair. And this chair is director's chair that folds up. And I don't know if you can see them, but the tools here are the tools that he used to cut his hair with. And they stayed in this bag. And when they would call him and say the president's in Pennsylvania, he needs a haircut, he'd grab this bag, that chair, and head for the airport and go cut his hair.
Wow. You know, one of the wild things about local history is unless you know the connections, you'll miss the stories. Sure. You know, one of the things that Rector is really known for statewide is the Labor Day picnic. And people come in from everywhere. I mean, I've seen, you know, our Senate candidates, gubernatorial candidates, you know, riding right down the main drag. And to think that a town of, you know, 2,000 people literally has presidential connections, that's a story that needs to be told. And through local history, public history, and the kindness, Mr. Miles's kindness in investing in the museum, that's a great way to preserve the local stories.
You know, when he was governor and lieutenant governor, and he came to the picnic 13 years.
13 years.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
so many people in Rector knew it.
That personal touch. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So can you talk a little bit about the way the rest of the displays, obviously we're not going to do a feature on every section, but
Sure.
Would you mind talking about those segments that stay permanently and any other that are temporary or rotating or things like that? Would you mind talking about that?
You know, we get new stuff almost weekly, and so yes, we do rotate them around. But just every so often, you know, we have an awesome board, right. and the ladies on the board, they'll come in and they'll just start moving things around and adding and subtracting things.
Gotcha.
And so it's not on any kind of rotation timeline.
Gotcha.
But they just come in and spend a day cleaning and
sure.
and moving things around.
Keeping it fresh and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
I got it. And there is a personal connection to this museum. The equipment that is in view now was donated by my father. My great-grandparents lived in the Rector community, were married here in 1905, and it is an extra joy for me to be able to tell their story, even as we tell the story of the community. More of the military display is available in this section also, including a complete World War I era uniform. And so, again, trying to tell the story of a local community encompasses multiple aspects of community life, from economics to military service to sports to education to religion to community involvement. And the Rector Community Museum not only has preserved this Underwood furniture building, but they're telling the story of their community at a level that school children can understand. They bring groups in all the time of all ages to tell the story of this local community. It's not run by a university. It's not run by academics. It's run by people who are passionate about telling the story of their community, and they tell it remarkably well. Well, we're in the Ford room of the Rector Community Museum, and this is a really nice space. The acoustics are a little different in here, but I know you guys have had several groups in. I mean, the wall is covered with folks who have already come in and performed. I know this is used a lot for community engagement, but I know you've also done some fundraising in this space, and it's, like I said, it's a really, really nice space. But it prompted a question. You can see kind of the character of the building in here, but it prompted a question in terms of other communities that have historic properties like this that are worth saving. What advice would you have for those communities that want to start the process? I've got an old building, it has character, it has a story, and we want to save it and use it either for a museum or community venue or whatever, but just to breathe some life back into it while preserving that character. What would you say to those communities? How would you help them?
Of course, the very first thing you have to have is a community backing.
Right.
You know, and a very good board, someone who's doesn't just want to serve, that they want to work.
Right.
And then you start on the building, and as we said earlier, make sure that you get the roof fixed.
Right.
And that I would recommend that you try to save an area for a venue, because that'll keep your head above water financially.
Sure.
You know, and we were very fortunate to have. We almost had to do this because the ceiling and the roof was gone, and so when we put it back, these posts were in front of the Ford Theater across the street.
Oh, okay.
And so we used those to prop the roof up.
Now I know where the Ford comes from.
That's
okay,
right.
all right.
Yeah, people think Danny Ford, but it was the Ford Theater.
The Ford Theater, wow.
And you know, it was the entertainment center of Rector.
Right.
And so we wanted this to be the entertainment center of Rector.
I
so
see.
It's dedicated to the Ford. So we call it the Ford Room instead of Ford.
I got you.
But I would highly recommend that if you have this space, because you can have, we've had book signings here.
Sure.
You know, we've had class reunions, we've had everything.
Right.
And it's really what has kept our head above water.
Wow.
And so that I would highly recommend you try to do that.
Right.
And just save everything you can and get the word out to people, and stuff will come faster than you can handle it at first.
Right.
Yeah.
So it was, I gather it was, I mean, obviously it was a lot of work. I mean, you mentioned the gentleman that went over 5,000 volunteer hours. We talked about that off camera, I think, a little bit, but I get this sense, listening to you and hearing your passion, I get the sense that once people realized that this was really going to happen, that it was a serious endeavor and not a halfway whatever. I get the sense that you had several folks who bought into that vision close to the same time and really jumped instead of one person. So I guess another community going through a similar situation, this is obviously not a one-man job.
No,
so
you need a board.
Yeah.
And in that board, you need to have someone who doesn't care to ask for money.
Right.
And that's not me.
Right.
But if you have someone who has that gift,
sure,
can talk to people and get their support, that's a big deal.
Wow.
And so I just highly recommend that every town does this.
And each aspect of life is well preserved. The community has supported this endeavor, as Mr. Pruett was talking about a little while ago. And everything that is on display and the cases on the walls has a direct link to this community or the communities that are a part of the modern Rector School District, Greenway, Leonard, Boydsville, and others. Excellent recreation of life throughout the late 19th, 20th, and even into the 21st century. Local history matters. Once those stories fade from view, once the artifacts are discarded, they can't be replaced. The items on display in this museum did not come from an auction house or from eBay or from flea markets. These items all have family connections, all have community connections. There's life in these pictures. There's life in these artifacts. And the importance of telling these stories is not necessarily for the people who lived through these events, but for the people yet to come. The Rector Community Museum is a labor of love, with the emphasis both on the love and on the labor. And the quality shows every time I visit.